Here we are. Wow, this has been a morning. How is everybody? I see you joining in. Hey, Bev. Hey, how you doing? It's a little late. I know. Notice I got a haircut. Had to do that this morning. Hey, Dan. Got everything done. Finally there. Then does the picture look better this morning? I got a new phone. I'm holding it in my hand right now, but man, it looks better to me. The picture's great, but I was having a little bit of problems. Did I false broadcast there for a minute? I don't know. Anyway, hey, I want to talk to you about bravery this morning. Bravery takes many forms. You know, there's the shy young lady that stands up in front of a room of students and tells them of her love for Jesus. That's one form of bravery. A molestation victim that shares their attack is another form of bravery. A young man that races toward gunfire to rescue his fellow soldiers is certainly bravery. Good morning. Hey, how are you? Is it still morning? Does it qualify as morning? I don't know. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off this morning. Hey, I got to tell you the story. Rise and shine. I did rise and shine, but then I ran and ran. Glory to glory. That's the only way to go, isn't it? Just to go from glory to glory. Praise God. On January 29th, 1945, a man named Sergeant Leonard Funk and 4 other soldiers were guarding about 90 German soldiers in Germany. Funk had left the 4 Americans to guard the prisoners while he scouted ahead. And during his absence, 10 other Germans surprised the Americans and took them captive, freeing the 90 German soldiers and arming them. Okay? When Sergeant Funk returned, he came face to face with a German who was pointing a machine gun at his stomach. The officer was shouting at him in German, and about 40 other Germans were pointing rifles at him. Funk began to laugh. He said that he thought it was funny that this officer was yelling at him in German, and he couldn't understand a word that the officer was saying. The officer was getting madder and madder and yelling louder and louder in German, and Funk was laughing even harder. And pretty soon, many of the other German soldiers were laughing with him. And then, without warning, Sergeant Funk opened fire with his Thompson machine gun, killing the officer, switched clips, and began to shoot the other Germans that were pointing rifles at him. He yelled to the Americans, "Grab your guns," and single-handedly, Funk killed 20 German soldiers in the face of overwhelming odds, and the other Germans all surrendered. Sergeant Leonard Funk was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery. You know, I love to hear stories about Medal of Honor winners, their courage, their selfless acts of bravery. Sometimes the way that they did it just amazes me, and it encourages me that ordinary people can do extraordinary things sometimes. Today we're reading 2 Samuel 23 through 1 Kings chapter 1. And chapter 23 introduces us to David's mighty men. There were 30 men that were mighty men of David. And these men were David's personal bodyguards, and they were his most loyal soldiers. And in this account of David's 30 mighty men, we find the story of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. And he was the captain of David's guards. In 2 Samuel 23:20, it says, "And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. He went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in the time of snow. And he slew an Egyptian, a goodly man. And the Egyptian had a spear in his hand. But he went down to him with a staff, and he plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and he slew him with his own spear." Bad connection. I know. I was having problems. I'm sorry if we have bad connections. And he slew him with his own spear. And these things did Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he had the name among them of the 3 mighty men. He was the mightiest, the most honorable than all the other 30, but he attained not to the first 3. And David set him over his guard. Benaiah killed 2 lion-like men of Moab. The Moabites were descendants of Lot, and they were relatives of the Israelites. They had always been around, and they were always the enemies of Israel. This pictures the enemy that is within us and is always with us, and he tries to destroy us, the flesh. The flesh comes against us, and Paul said that we had to crucify that flesh every day. Benaiah had fought with the flesh, and he had overcome. Benaiah had killed an Egyptian of great stature. Egypt was a type of the world. It represented the pinnacles of success in the world, its wisdom, its power, and its religions. When Satan was tempting Jesus, he took him to the high pinnacle. Remember that? And he showed him the nations of the world, and he promised him the world if he would just bow down before him. Isn't that just like the world, to try to get us to bow down. It's easy to forget that this world is our slave master. Much like the Israelites, we often long to return to its pleasures. Benaiah pictures a man who had overcome the world. And finally, we're told that Benaiah killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. Imagine that fight for a moment. That lion that can kill with one slap of its giant paw. It had jaws that crush bones and teeth as sharp as razors. To make matters worse, there was no room. He was in a pit. It was snowy. The ground was slippery. And if we think about this battle, the one thing that's for sure is it was for life and death. That lion wanted to kill him. Peter tells us in 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour. This passage typifies that Benaiah had overcome the temptations of Satan. Benaiah had overcome the worst possible enemy in the worst possible circumstances, and he was living victoriously, more than a conqueror. How did he do that? How did he overcome that lion in a pit on a snowy day? Well, we know that the names in the Bible have meanings, and I begin to look at this, and let me tell you what this means. Benaiah's name speaks to us victory. We are told that he is Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. Jehoiada means God knows. God knows. Whatever circumstance you're in, God knows. Whatever the enemy has come against you, and whenever he comes to destroy you, I want you to know something. God knows. God knows what you're going through, and he cares about every beat of your heart. He knows the loss. He knows the next move. He knows, and he isn't confused. He's not at loss about what's going to take place, about what you're going to do, or about where you're going to go. God isn't concerned about the pit or the snow or the lion. He's concerned about you. He has overcome all of those things, and he is standing by your side. Benaiah, it was Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, means God builds. The circumstances that you are facing, the enemy that you are fighting, it's not new to God. He will use what you are going through to build you, to strengthen you, and to raise you up. Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 4:17, for this light affliction, which is but for a moment, works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen, but the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. God is working. He's building your life. If we're going to be more than conquerors, we must stop looking at this world, and we must set our eyes and our hearts on the things that are eternal. You are in God's hands. You are not alone. We know that Christ has overcome the flesh, overcome the world, and defeated Satan, taking from Satan the keys of death, hell, and the grave. He has made us more than conquerors. If God is for us, who can be against us? God knows, and God builds. He is raising you up, an overcomer, victorious, mighty in the Spirit. I can say with Paul, I know that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be and is being revealed in us. I will glory in this fight. I will praise God in the pit. I will rejoice in the snow, and I will trust God in the face of the lion. For I know that God is working. His glorious will is coming about in my life, and he has called me victorious. He has called me his son, his daughter. I want you to know something today. You are blessed. Have a blessed day in God, because God knows, and God is building. He is working in you. God bless you.